It was a warm evening in Texas, the kind of evening where the cicadas sang outside and the air carried a heavy stillness. I sat quietly in my chair by the window, the lace curtains glowing gold from the last trace of sunlight. My joints ached, but I had grown used to that long ago. What I wasn't used to was what I heard next. I thought no one noticed me sitting there, but I did notice them. My grandson leaning close to my daughter in the kitchen, his voice soft, almost a whisper. I could still hear it, though, clear as a bell. "She's just waiting to die," he said. Those words. They weren't shouted, they weren't cruel in tone, but they cut me deeper than any blade. My chest tightened, my throat burned, and for a moment I couldn't breathe. I sat there staring at the fading horizon, pretending I hadn't heard, pretending I was still invisible, as I had been for so long. But inside, something shifted. You see, people think old age is a quiet fading, like the last candle melting into nothing. They think we sit here waiting, counting hours, waiting for the curtain to fall. But that whisper, those careless words, set fire to something inside me. Because I remembered, I wasn't just a woman sitting in a chair. I had lived, I had fought, I had given. And my story wasn't over. I was born and raised in the wide open lands of Texas. Back then, life wasn't easy. The sun was harsh, money was scarce, and every day meant work from dawn till dark. But I carried a kind of stubborn grit in me. I learned it from my father, who worked the ranch with his bare hands, and from my mother, who patched clothes until the fabric gave out. I married young, too young maybe, but love doesn't check your birth certificate. He was tall, with a laugh that could carry across a field. Together we built a life. We didn't have much, but we had each other, and soon enough we had children. I remember cradling each one of them in my arms, promising with every ounce of my soul that I would give them the life I never had. And I did. I scrubbed floors until my fingers cracked. I cooked meals when cupboards were nearly bare. I stayed up nights sewing clothes so my kids wouldn't feel different at school. I gave everything I had to them, piece by piece, year after year. I thought love like that would last forever, but time has a way of changing things. My husband passed earlier than he should have. The house grew quieter, and my children grew up, as children do. They started families of their own, building lives I was proud to see. I was proud, but also forgotten. Slowly visits grew shorter, phone calls fewer, and the house that once rang with laughter now echoed only with the hum of an old refrigerator. Still, I told myself this was life. Parents raise children, and children move on. That's the way of the world. But what I didn't expect was the coldness. The way their eyes sometimes looked at me, not with love, but with impatience. The way they sighed when I needed help with simple things. I wasn't mom anymore. I was a weight, a task, a responsibility they shuffled between them. And then, that whisper from my grandson, as if my existence had been reduced to a countdown clock. "She's just waiting to die." That night I lay awake in my bed. The ceiling fan spun slow circles, creaking with every turn. I stared into the dark and thought about those words. Maybe he was right. Maybe I was just waiting. Waiting for a body that no longer obeyed me to give up. Waiting for a heart that had loved too much to finally tire out. But no. I thought of my younger self, standing barefoot on hot Texas dirt, daring life to break me. I thought of the nights I stayed strong so my children could sleep without worry. I thought of the woman I had been, and I realized I wasn't ready to let her go. So I made a decision. If my family saw me as a ghost in waiting, then I would remind them I was still alive. It started small. The next morning, I dressed not in the old faded robe they were used to seeing me in, but in a bright dress I had tucked away years ago. I brushed my hair, dabbed on lipstick, and when I walked into the kitchen, their eyes widened. "Morning," I said, with a smile that felt brand new. They looked at me differently that day, surprised, maybe even confused, but I kept at it. Day by day, I took back pieces of myself. I walked a little farther in the yard, even when my knees protested. I cooked again, real meals, the kind that filled the house with the smell of love. I laughed at old jokes, shared old stories, and slowly, I saw something change. My grandson, the same boy who had whispered those cruel words, started lingering around me. One day, He sat by me as I told him about the first time I rode a horse, how the Texas wind nearly blew me off, but I held on tight. He listened, really listened. His eyes lit up as if he saw me not as someone fading, but as someone full of life. I had his attention. I had their attention. But it wasn't